Hello, this is Ki Tisa. This is not Ki Tisa, it's me, Norit. I'm talking about the Parashat Ki Tisa now, and I try to get out or leave out politics, though I have to say certain things. I mean, besides that the Israelis are heroes, and that I find the Emiratis pathetic. They glorify themselves and their leadership the whole time on Twitter, and even claim now, I mean, what is it about Islam? Are you also able to tell the truth? So obviously not even Emiratis. They claim now and that they get the most missile attacks from Iran and not Israel. And you know, Israel fights also Hezbollah, Hamas, PLO, Islamic Jihad, actually everybody. And it's not only that they have to defend their country, they also have to fight in Iran. And they are just amazing, amazing. And they free the world of Islamism. I mean, the Americans help. There were already attacks also from Qatar on Iran. I think it's not such a good idea when the Arabs get involved. And but that's their thing. Yeah, I don't get mixed up in it. But you know that Trump abandoned or betrayed the Kurds. The Kurds were good allies to the Americans in the fight against ISIS. Then Trump abandoned them. Oh, we don't need them anymore. Right? But now it's good that the Kurds also fight against the Iranian regime. And now you need them suddenly again, Trump. But in genocide, Kurds and that Erdogan and al-Jolani started the genocide against the Kurds, then you didn't have them, right? It looks actually a bit like there was a plan behind this genocide. So minimize the number of Kurds. Yeah, like the Nazis, choose a number. We just have to eradicate numbers. This is a number. That's why people in concentration camps get numbers, because they were reduced to a number. And so reduce the numbers so that less people can fight against the regime. And there's a reason why I don't join or repost or whatever pictures where even Khamenei or all these mullahs and whatever are pictured as rats or other animals or insects. When you do that, you do the same like what the Nazis did with Jews. If you forget that even that the other side are human beings, then you can legitimate everything. I mean, this is not what the Israelis do, yeah, and this is also not the Israeli army. But I see that especially also in posts of Emiratis, and I don't like it, because this is a very dangerous thing. They are accountable and responsible for their crimes. I've spoken about responsibility in many videos, and we have to hold them accountable, and it's also correct and completely justified that they are now taken out mainly by the Israelis, because blood is on the hands of these criminals. And you have these bots, and these are paid people who put out that the Israelis are child killers and bombed schools and blah 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 blah, repeated, by the way, by the European by the UN. This is the Red-Green Alliance. What's bad about it is that the UN is paid by our tax money. When Francesca Albanese posts anything, I just say, I comment, pay back our tax money. We have to dismantle the UN. This is not. They have no legitimization anymore. The UN has proven for me now that it was only created for a red-green alliance to destroy Israel, to destroy the Middle East. Today I was not on Twitter. I sometimes just have enough of the shit. And it's also always the same. It's just sometimes, but I went to my favorite cafe and the waiter, I found out today, is Persian, and he told me, he got the message in on his phone that the Israelis, the Air Force, flew to Iran, hit their precise targets, went back and hit the Hezbollah in Lebanon. And I said, they're just amazing. Yeah, quite busy. So pray for the Israeli soldiers and pray for the civilians in Israel, but also in Saudi Arabia and also in Iran and also in the UAE, though I find you all fucking stupid. Qatar, I don't care. I'm honest, I don't care. I read now that the Iranians, I mean not the people, the RGC, declared now that, no, it's gone, wait, technology, it's not mine. And that, wait a minute please. Yeah, that they didn't bomb, they said, we didn't do it, we didn't bomb Oman and Cyprus. Who else should do it? Now they're afraid because Cyprus is a NATO country. Not so good, right? The UN repeats the lies about the Israelis are child killers and they hit girls' schools and they kill children. I say that nearly in every video. These are, of course, lies put out by the regime. It tells you everything about the UN you have to know. Right? But they also just repeated what Hamas says and PLO and all these terrorists. So and there's the Persian activists are quite new to this topic. So we choose. We know that every Israeli knows that. So there is a Persian activist on Facebook. His name is Kian Sadegian. I hope you pronounce him like that. And he made a video. I mean, he makes many videos, and he also said, well, how many proofs do you need that the regime, the fighters, I don't call them army because they occupy a country that is not theirs, like the Palestinians, they occupy a country that is not theirs. They are terrorists. So these terrorists from the RGC hide in schools, and this is proven. Also, they use children as human shields, like other terrorists, the terrorists called Palestinians. So this is all news for them, and I tried to explain him, listen, this is the method. These are paid bots. I'm a bit tired. These are all paid people, yeah. And this is how it is, and we shouldn't mingle with bad people. There's another activist on Facebook, also Persian. His name is Kayan Samorodi. Wait a minute. It's already a few days old. He received a video directly from Iran that the people in Iran received messages directly from the IRGC, and everyone who celebrates on the death of Khamenei. Wait a minute. So any movement that disrupts security will be considered as a direct of cooperation with the enemy and will be met with firm response. It means the IRGC sends out to the people of Iran a direct threat of death if they cheer. I mean, they're brave enough to do it anyway. But I just wanted to update you a bit about what's going on, because we shouldn't live among bad people. This is what the Talmud says, and it's hard in this world, right? I talk about it because I talk about Ki Tisa, the building of the Mishkan goes on. It's quite a big portion of Shemot, and it's quite interesting. Why is it so important? Also for the one who wrote it, and I will also quote the Midrash Tehilim 26. That's why, and they also talk about it, that we shouldn't live among bad people. So, but I will talk about not the usual topics. You can hear that from your rabbi, or read on the Shabbat website, or the website of other rabbis, or whatever. I'm not a rabbi, I'm a scientist, so I do it a bit differently. So, the building of the Mishkan, right? The Aron haEdut, what is it? The Aron haEdut is introduced already in Parashat Truma, and is in general an acacia wood chest built to house the tablets. And the most people translate it in the way that Edut comes from Ed, means witness or testimony. That would mean that is witness or testimony for the covenant between Hashem and us. I want to point out that Edut can also come from Ed. Sometimes in biblical Hebrew there are two words that sound exactly the same and are written exactly the same, and then you have to find out which one is meant. And it's common, but not so often. But in this case, Ed has there are two words that you write exactly the same, and the second Ed means group or community. That would mean, for me, that makes much more sense that the Aron haEdut is the community's ark. Why? Because the Torah is the law of Am Yisrael. So when we got the Torah, this is the law we should live in or with. So this is what constitutes our law. Our community as Am Yisrael, not just community, only that constitutes Am Yisrael. So it makes more sense of, I like it better. You can choose, of course, when you like the other one better, choose that. For me, it makes more sense that it comes from the second Ed. Anyway, I'm talking about now about portable holy sites. We talk here about the people, nomadic people who walk from Egypt to Canaan, but not the direct route like nowadays with bus or plane, but walk around in the desert of Sinai. And this holy site described in our Torah has parallels in other Near Eastern nomadic cultures, and also in Egypt. As in Egypt, it's more the military tents, because Egypt was not a nomadic culture, but also in Babylon. So the symbolism is also quite interesting. So if you don't like science, switch off. I'm honest. Then listen to your rabbi or listen to or read religious articles. I mean, I'm a religious that is religious, but I'm a scientist. So I find other things interesting. So, this is now from an article by Professor Michael Homan, and I will post the link in the description. You can read the whole article, it's quite interesting. So, and the article is from the Torah. So I quote, like many ancient Near Eastern religious structures, the tabernacle symbolically mirrors the cosmos. The entrance of both the court and tent faced the rising sun. The menorah has 7 lamps with 7 possibly representing the number of luminary bodies visible to the naked eye. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So also the menorah has this symbolism. That's what we want. What he also wants to say. The tabernacle's lamp was symbolically placed along the southern wall, as the planets would traverse the sky most often south of the structure. This is also similar to the creation story in Emuna Elish, by the way, from this Babylonian creation story. And which means, interestingly enough, this is linked to the creation of the world in Parashat, and of Gan Eden and Shabbat. Yoo-hoo! Why Shabbat? Because Shabbat mirrors the creation and Gan Eden. It's logical. If you know about the symbolism of and also the mystic behind Shabbat. Not only we are not allowed to do this. I'm not allowed to call my mama. No. By the way, that's only in Ashkenazi Judaism. By the way, for example, the Persians don't have that, and also not every Ashkenazi follows this rule about electricity. That was a conference of rabbis in England in the 19th century, and most of them decided that electricity is fire, making fire, because in the 19th century, when electricity was invented in England, the wires were not isolated, so it just burned and started a lot of fires. So in this time it was understandable that they said, "Oh, it's fire." But even in this time, in this rabbis' conference, not all rabbis accepted it. And nowadays it's forbidden. You have to use wires that are isolated for security reasons. So it's not the most people also learned that when they became religious. You're not allowed to use electricity because when you switch on and switch off, you change the electrical circuit. What? But this is not the reason. Yeah, and Persian Jewry or people from other traditions and countries don't have that, by the way. Yeah, so Shabbat. So keeping Shabbat and electricity is it's not so clear, like the most people think. So, the Mishkan, the making of the Mishkan, is also linked to the Malachot of Shabbat. I will talk about it later, of course, because in the Mishnah. But let's go back to the creation of the earth. The creation of the earth is quite nice. I quote now from the Midrash Tehilim 26, who also links the Mishkan with the creation. And it's fun. I'll read the whole thing. A quotation. I have loved the Lord. This is equivalent to the creation of your world. In the beginning, it is written, Parashat 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And in the tabernacle, it is written, Shemot 26:7. And you shall make curtains of goat's hair. On the second day, let there be a firmament and let it divide. This is in Bereshit. Yeah? The second day, the creation of what was created on the second day. In the tabernacle, it is the partition. Exactly. We will divide, so it's the firmament that divides, and this is the Parokhet reflects that, mirrors that. On the third day, let the waters gather together. In the tabernacle, it is written, Shmot 30:18, and you shall make a bronze basin, and its base also of bronze for washing. And water shall be put therein. I mean, the symbolism of water is also in the mikveh, of course. Yeah, I mean, the symbolism of water is I won't talk about it. On the fourth day, let there be luminaries. Luminaries are not only the stars, what we call stars, or the sun and the moon, but in antiquity, the planets, the planets also are mentioned, they were all called planets or stars. Yeah, because that's what the people could see. In the tabernacle, and they were called luminaries, also lights. Yeah. In the tabernacle, it is written, Shemot 25:31, and you shall make a lampstand of pure gold. On the fifth day, let the waters bring forth living creatures. In the tabernacle, it is written, Shemot 25:18, and you shall make 2 cherubim of gold. I didn't speak last time about the cherubim, but they are actually meditators between God and people. They also had it's also like the Sphinx in Egypt. They also had it in the Akkadian tradition and so forth. Only in Ezekiel the cherubim have 4 faces, but not usually. Usually it's the face of a human and the body of an animal. On the 6th day, let man be created in the tabernacle. It is written, Shmot 28:1, and take unto yourself Aaron and your brother, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And I will post also the link. You can read the whole Midrash. I spoke also about how the tent of meeting. Sometimes it's what is the Mishkan actually. Now when I say Mishkan, I mean the tent of meeting. It's face the rising sun, right? And this is also the temple later was also faced, so it were aligned east to west. A lot of people think we all, it was always like that, that you pray to the east. We pray to the east. Actually, it's not always correct, because you pray in the direction of the temple, or actually of the land of Israel. So when you are in Russia, you shouldn't pray to the east. It doesn't make much sense. You have to pray to the south. But people still do that. And it doesn't make much sense. It depends where you are, I think. But it's the tradition. But that was not the temple. That was also not the Mikdash, and it was not the temple. It was a east to west alliance. So the entrance was in the east, and the Holy of Holies was in the west, also in the temple. And this is a kind of a common orientation in ancient Near East, designed to face the rising sun. So in the morning, it's not about the evening. I will post an article also on that from Etzion.org. It's called Tanakh Studies, Core Studies, East-West Orientation Mishkan. That's the article called. Good. I read it quite often. You see it in many descriptions, even sometimes printed in Torah publications, that the Mishkan was very big. How does that make sense? Yeah, I will discuss that now. I dare to disagree. Yeah, and I'm not alone. I found out that I'm not alone with it. Yeah, because it doesn't make sense. Yeah, these were Bedouins walking through the desert. Right? How shall they carry something big with them? Numbers and measurements in the Tanakh are symbolic. I have neighbors with a baby. Now the baby cries. Okay, anyway. So the measurements also in the whole Tanakh, the measurements for the temple, they don't work out. You can't build a temple with these measurements. This is nonsense. Yeah, you can't go after that. These numbers are symbolic numbers. This is everything there, not everything, but this is symbolic, right? So we know, for example, that in the books of Samuel, so they carried the whole thing around the whole time. I come back to that. And you see that also already in the land of Israel, before there was a king. Yeah, also before there was a king, but also, I will come to that later, with the first king Shaul, Samuel, who was actually the prophet Samuel. So you see that the Mishkan was carried around. So when the priest was consulted, when one had to go to war, I spoke about it already. This is completely normal. Later, also prophets. Yeah, prophets or priests. It depends. You see both traditions in the whole Tanakh. Completely normal. So what to ask? Will God say yes or no? Will we win or will we lose? So when Samuel traveled with the Mikdash to the gathering of troops, he brought the Mikdash with him. How should that be possible when it's huge? It's not possible. Yeah? So it must have been a size one could load on a horse, a donkey, or a camel. Right? And without the animal dying under the load, of course, because especially when there were Bedouins walking around for hours and hours a day, the animal had to be able to carry that whole thing for many hours. So this is a big thing in all this drawings and illustrations of bullshit. I'm sorry. Yeah, and. So Michael Holman, I quoted him already, suggests that the whole Mishkan, which was also called the tent of meeting, reflecting this nomadic culture, was taken down and repitched, like all other tents. So then you can, it's completely logical actually. Yeah? That should suggest, for me, that should suggest that the actual holy site was the Aron haEdut. I will come to that. Yeah, the Aron haEdut. Nowadays, many people think Aron. You think of these big things in synagogues. Where the Torah scrolls are stored. But forget this picture in your head. Aron haEdut was something small. You have to be loaded on an animal to move around. There's also something interesting that proves that it was small. Yeah. In 1 Samuel 1:9 and 2:22, it is also mentioned, and this Mishkan, whatever it is, maybe it's just the Aron haEdut, that the family of Eli, the priest, was in charge of this Mishkan until it was lost in the battle of Ebenezer, against the Philistines. And the Philistines obviously stole it. No, can't steal it when it's big. Yeah, because they were also on foot, fighting, soldiers. Yeah. By the way, the Romans called the land, I think, Palestina because of the Philistines. Yeah, it was a punishment punishment for the Jews, and the Philistines, for all Palestinian fans, were people of Greek origin. Yeah, they were also not. They spoke a Greek language also. That was later returned and brought to Bet Shemesh, and then to Gibeah and Kiryat Yearim. And later, King David brought it, the Aron haEdut, to Jerusalem. Yeah. Now I speak a bit, 2 sentences, 3, about, the people who are temple fans. Though they claim to be rabbinical Jews, David wanted to build the temple and couldn't. First of all, the priests were against it because it's not according to the cult of our God. Secondly, he also went to the prophet Nathan to ask for the divine answer, how it was done. Right, the prophet should know. That's in 2 Samuel 7:6. Quote, because I did not dwell in, so that what God says, according to the prophet Nathan, because I did not dwell in a house since the time that I brought up the children of Israel from Egypt, and even to this day, but I have walked in a tent, in a tabernacle. That means the Aron haEdut. So God also said he doesn't want the temple. And the Talmud is also quite explicit about it in many sentences. It's just not, I give just one example. The Talmud clearly says we don't need a temple. Praying is above Korbanot. Korbanot is, by the way, was not an individual practice. Most people don't know that. There was always someone. Not everyone had to bring a tamid offering or a mincha offering every day. People would have been bankrupt. Yeah, what do you do with so many dead animal carcasses? Just practical thinking. Yeah. So, but what the Talmud actually says is that the dining table represents the altar in the temple, but also the altar in the tent of meeting, and the Baalit Bait, not the Baal Bait, the Baalit Bait, the donna, the woman of the house, the mistress of the house, represents the priest. So there's no need for a temple. And also Rambam had some things to say about the Korbanot. He also said nonsense. This is not what God needs. God doesn't need Korbanot. Rambam says in Mishneh Torah that, how does he put it, that that was the spiritual level of the people in this time, but not what God wanted and needed. And you can also connect it to now. And if you need, and the Talmud says the tefillot substitute the korbanot, so you can do it yourself. This is Judaism, so do it yourself. Democratic principle. Do it yourself. Everyone can do it. So let's go back to transportable holy sites. So I found a very interesting article from the Hebrew University. The article is called "Was a Sacred Curtain, Parokhet, Depicted on Portable Shrines in the Ancient Near East" by Mansugulu and Garfinkel. I will post a link. They write, quote, The Parokhet, or sacred curtain, was an important item of cultic paraphernalia in the ancient Near East. It is known from the Sumerian and the Akkadian texts, the biblical tradition, the Second Temple in Jerusalem, Greek temples and synagogues of the Roman and Byzantine eras, and is still in use today. So also in our synagogues we have a parokhet. We suggest that such a sacred curtain is depicted on several of the miniature clay objects known as portable shrines. I like portable shrines. I use the one as a thumbnail. Yeah. In Egypt, thanks to the dry climate, a miniature curtain of this kind has indeed been preserved in association with a portable shrine. And in the link to this article, you will find also pictures of portable shrines. And you can see how they looked like. And you will find examples from Ur, Ugarit, Khamenei, Egypt, Israel, and so forth and so forth. The one I used also as a thumbnail is the one I like most. It's from Tel Rehov in Israel. And it dates from the 19th century BCE. Yeah, nice. And the animal above, I think it's take a closer look. The animal above looks for me like a lion who had hunted down 2 wild boars. Take a close look at the animal's face because it's very funny. And this is what the IDF is doing now. Hunt down. Though a wild boar is of course an innocent like all animals, and terrorists and their cronies are responsible for the deeds because they have chosen evil. They have chosen to be bad people. But what does the Mikdash or whatever, wherever you put it, has to do with us? Yeah, nowadays. I mean, I put out in my video on the Parashat Truma that you can be your own Mikdash now. You should be your own Mikdash, and this is of course, when you live naturally. This is the meaning of Tshuva. Yeah. So that means you can be your own Aron haEdut. And this is also, of course, very social when you are a natural person, because we humans are natural persons. And that's why it's completely unnatural that people hate each other, that people want to do a genocide, or they want to conquer a world, or this also goes to the Emiratis. When you always want to show how great you are, then you show that you are not. Because somebody who's really fantastic and amazing is very humble and doesn't show off. Yeah, and everyone is responsible for its deeds. Somebody who decided to be a good person and to do tshuva, and Maimonides said you should do that every evening, because the Talmud says you should do tshuva the day before you die, and Maimonides said, yeah, but because you don't know when you will die, you can do it every day. It's not, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we don't, it's actually not the time when you do tshuva and the rest of the year you fuck up. Yeah. In Rosh Hashanah, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we Jews try to pray for salvation for the world. It's not for us, because we can do it all the time. Also, not only on Rosh Chodesh, where also many people say, "Oh, it's time for tshuva." No, you can do it every half hour if you want to. There is no limit, because there is no limit to be good. That doesn't mean this, not being perfect. This being perfect makes you actually unbearable, unsufferable. Yeah. and usually not a good person. Yeah, yeah. Be perfect. My child has to be perfect. My dog has to be perfect. Cool down. Yeah, and so yeah, I will say cool down. Easy. Yeah. You know, my rabbi, the former chief rabbi of Austria, Baal Chaim Eisenberg, said once in the Stadttempel, in the main synagogue in Vienna, in a Trasha, he said, there are so many mitzvot. One Jew, one person can't keep them all. But all Jews together manage. This is the meaning of Am Yisrael Echad. I like that, because even when you say, oh, I'm Hasidic, I keep Shabbat, and somebody else, for the example, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's a thing with, I'm using my phone, or I spoke about it, about using electricity, but say in Israel, people have only a Shabbat free day, so the young people go out Friday evening, because that's the only day they can go out, yeah, and have a party. I mean, I understand that. But it doesn't mean that they are not religious. They actually are not secular Jews, because everyone keeps something else, and we shouldn't judge. Right? It's also what Rabbi Shushia said. So, everyone keeps something, exactly, even if you don't see it. And also, many people act religious, but are not good people. Yeah. So now we talk about also keeping Shabbat. They say, so why is Shabbat linked to the Mishkan, besides the creation and Gan Eden? Because the Mishnah, without any explanation, lists the malachot we are not allowed to do on Shabbat as the work that had to be done to build the Mishkan in this parasha. So check out the list in the parasha. The Mishnah, we know, also in science, that the Mishnah reflects a tradition that was done, was practiced in the times of the Second Temple. And so that's why it's also called quite reliable. I mean, there are also other traditions like the Karaim, for example. Yeah. So they do it a bit differently, but it's not so different actually. Yeah. I mean, the base is it's also based on the Torah, of course. Yeah. And so they don't give an explanation, of course, this Mishnah. And the problem is sometimes the Torah gives you a sentence, but without the explanation, so or instruction. So what now? Yeah, I mean, there's this is really building the Mishkan are really detailed instructions. But for Shabbat, it just say, on the seventh day, you are not allowed to do any melacha. A melacha. A melacha. What's the difference between melacha and avodah? Now, that's really good information now, right? So what are we allowed to do and we are not allowed to do? No clue, right? When you just have the text of the Torah, you think, okay, fine, what now? Yeah, and the Mishnah just says, okay, these are the works that had to be done, had to be done to build the Mishkan. Where they got it from, we don't know. I mean, these 6 agricultural malachot, the first 6 agricultural malachot, fall not in the not directly in the building of the Mishkan. I'm talking about plowing, planting, reaping, gathering, harvesting, threshing, winnowing. Were not immediate activities. For the making of the Mishkan in our parasha, but of course the count as avodah, because when you say, oh, you're a lawyer or you're a doctor is something else. When you, I don't know, an accountant or you work in a supermarket, then of course this is your avodah, You are also not allowed to do it, of course. This is not, this 39 melachot is not the only things you're not allowed to do, by the way. You're also not allowed to do your work. And if you're a student and you study at the university, you're actually also not allowed to study for an examination, by the way. So so in fact you can say the keeping the Shabbat, keeping these 39 categories of melachot equals the building of the Mishkan, which equals the creation of the world. That means, this is really nice. So keeping Shabbat mirrors the building of the Mishkan and mirrors the creation. And that's why we should keep it. It's not only good for you to keep it, right? And it's also, everyone can do it. Absolutely everyone. And by the way, when you're a soldier or a nurse or a bitachon or a doctor or also a veterinarian, and it's about saving lives, pikuach nefesh, then you don't have to keep the Shabbat. Right? Don't forget. And a lot of people say it's only when life of a human is in danger, but that would be pikuach neshama. That halacha is pikuach nefesh. That means also animals are included. Yeah, even when your pet, for example, is in danger, you have to rush to the veterinarian also on a Shabbat. Yeah, I mean, I also save animals, wild animals on Shabbat, because it's pikuach nefesh. And keeping the Shabbat is for free. Everyone can do it. You don't have to be a craftsman like Bezalel or what was his name? Ahaliav. It's for free. You can build the Mishkan yourself. Exactly. In yourself. Just by tshuva and keeping Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.